Hello, class. My name is Max Levinson. You'll have to excuse me for the state of my voice. I'm in the middle of a pretty bad cold right now, and I can only breathe through my mouth. But that being said, my presentation today is on the topic of sexism in the entertainment industry, specifically in movies and TV shows. Movies and TV are very important to us, both as individuals and as a society. As individuals, they give us role models, ideas about who are the heroes and the villains. And then as a culture, as a society, they strongly reinforce and sometimes echo our societal values, trends, stereotypes, etc. As such, we would hope that TV and movies were representative of the population, but unfortunately, that is not so. Even though women make up 50% of TV viewers, TV and movie viewers, as one would expect, they are significantly underrepresented in the industry. In movies, women comprise 24% of protagonists, according to the Center for the Study of Women in Television and Film. This is a shocking number. 50% of the population, 50% of viewers, and yet only 24% of protagonists. Doesn't seem like a number that we should have in 2018, but that is the stat. Behind the scenes of the movies, the stats are actually even worse. Women comprise 8% of directors, 10% of writers, 24% of producers, 14% of editors, and only 2% of cinematographers. These stats have not been getting better over the past few years. In fact, they've actually gotten worse by a few percentage points. So it leaves us to wonder, how can we change this? In TV, the statistics aren't much better at all. Women make up about 40% of all speaking characters in TV. Behind the scenes, it's very similar to in Hollywood, the movie industry. Women comprise 27% of all creators, directors, writers, producers, etc. And then when women do get their chance to shine in movies, we as a culture often react very strongly to that, sometimes in extremely negative ways. I remember specifically when the new Ghostbusters movie came out a few years ago. There's a lot of uproar surrounding it because it features four women playing roles that in the first movie were four men. The trailer, as such, received a lot of hate on YouTube and on Twitter and things like that. Stephanie Mary wrote an article about it for the Washington Post. As she described it, more than 100,000 people liked the Ghostbusters trailer, and nearly 200,000 disliked it. As a comparison, a lot of other recent flops in the movie industry, which featured men, had, even though they were generally disliked by critics, by the people who went to see them, their trailers still had somewhere in the range of 4 to 15 times more likes than dislikes. So the Ghostbusters stats of likes to dislikes clearly indicates something about that movie in particular, and it's not hard to imagine why people disliked it so much. It was because it featured more women in strong roles than men, and because it was a reprisal of a movie that had been all male in the past, or mostly male. What I find particularly interesting is that this Ghostbusters wasn't even a bad movie. I remember I went to see it, I really enjoyed it, and I know a lot of critics thought that it was, if not the greatest movie of all time, at least significantly better than many of the terrible movies that have come out and yet were received much more favorably by the public on YouTube and the likes and dislikes of their trailers and such. So the impact of this is pretty clear. Women, and it's talked a lot about in relation to young girls, but it's really women of all ages do not see representation of people like them in TV and movies, not nearly as much as they should. As a society, both women and men get the message from TV and movies that men are more important, that they're more interesting, that women play secondary roles, often in TV and movies. The female characters, even if they have large speaking parts, are sort of defined in relation to the male characters, wives, secretaries, etc. And so overall, this gives our society the message that men are more important. This might be sort of a reflection of a society that already thinks that, but it's a vicious cycle. It reinforces that idea as well. So how can we change this? The best way, in my opinion, is to use our powers of consumerism and to put our money on the productions that we value the most. So money, of course, drives the entire entertainment industry, just like every industry. And so if we, the people who are conscious of the sexism, focus our money on productions that feature women prominently, at least feature them equally, then the Hollywood and the TV industry will be forced to create more of those pictures, and the sexist films and TV shows will uh, not be as popular, and thus they will decrease in number. Um, this is going to be a hard thing for our society to do. Obviously, as in the case of the Ghostbusters movie, there are a lot of people who don't feel that way, but each of us has significant power as a consumer. I know I love to see movies and I watch TV all the time. I'm sure most of you do too. So, if we are conscious in our viewing and we don't just accept things for the way that they are, then we can actually begin to make a change in this particular part of sexism in America. Thank you.